In another ministry, I was serving as the pastor, and I was supporting the youth ministry and supporting the youth director. And so one summer, it was kind of like a big summer kickoff. We thought, hey, there's this local horse ranch. We could take the kids to go for a ride. So let's pack up all the kids. And we did. It was about 20 kids, and we got into a big old caravan. It was about 3 or 4 cars. And I was the last car, and the youth director went first. And there were a couple cars in between us. And it was about 10 minutes away from the church. So we sign our waivers, and we all jumped in the car, and we drive over to this horse ranch. Now, the youth director who was at the lead was probably about 10 minutes ahead of me, all right? So as I pull up and I see the line of cars, the caravan, I see the youth director's car in a ditch, a motorcycle on its side, and a man laying down, who I believed to be dead. What had happened was the youth director was in the right-hand lane, and he didn't see this motorcycle, who was probably driving a little too fast. Coming this way, he took a left-hand turn. The motorcycle hit the vehicle so hard that the girl in the back seat immediately got a concussion and suffered from neurological issues for the next year. He flipped over and landed in the ditch, and he wasn't moving. But not only did this motorcycle hit the youth director's car, the other student who was driving a bunch of other students saw the whole thing happen. There is this shockwave of trauma that moved throughout the entire youth ministry. So then I pull up. There's an ambulance. There's cop cars. I'm calling parents. And it's the worst kind of call you guys can get as a parent. Like, hey, I don't want to scare you, but this just happened. So the parents came out, gathered up their students, and took them home. What do you do at this moment? What do you do? Old Kevin, and probably the culture and society that we are raised up in and motivated by, would say, lock it away, grin and bear it, just get over it. But I had experienced enough trauma in my own life that I knew that this is the worst thing for this youth ministry. So there was a lady in our church, I loved her, and she was a licensed trauma therapist. She actually worked with firemen and police officers who often saw terrible things. So I said, and she would do group therapy. So I said, can you meet the students next Friday? We'll invite them all out. And can you help us process the trauma that we experienced? Basically go through what we would call mourning. So she did. She gathered us all up the next Friday, and we sat in a circle. Now, even though I had seen a counselor in my life and I understood the basic process, I didn't know what group therapy was like, okay? So we're in a big circle, and she asks 3 questions, and here's the first question. The first question was, what happened? We had, at that time, about 15 students in this circle. And so all 15 students had to answer. Now, you have to remember, at this point, the students, they were literally having flashbacks. Every time they closed their eyes, every time they jumped in the car, they experienced the trauma of the event over and over again. So then to hear it verbalized by everyone 15 times, you didn't feel great by the end of that circle. I didn't feel great. There was a weight in the room. Even though I was the pastor in the room, I wanted to get out of there so bad. And the second question was worse than the first. How did it make you feel? So then 15 students, including the pastor, trying to put on a brave face, how did it make you feel? Got to hear 15 different versions. By this time, I was like, oh, this is a mistake. Why are we even here? And then she asked the question that was so important and that is required when we go through this process of mourning, when it comes to the traumas of our life. She said, what are your plans for the rest of the summer? And so we began to talk about it as a youth group, but just our own personal plans. And then we all talked, shared, and then she ended with this statement: God loves you, take care of you into your future. What did that last question give us that we all needed in the face of this trauma? Hope. And with hope comes closure. And see, we experience these things in our lives. It doesn't have to be catastrophic, terrible. It could just be our parents said something in the wrong way and the wrong tone, and it wounded us, but we've never truly closed that wound. We've never truly dealt with it. And then someone like this therapist or a pastor or a good friend or Solomon says, no, go ahead and do 3 things. First, face what happened. Say it out loud. Don't pretend it wasn't what it was. Second, confess how it felt on that. I don't want to do that because that shows that I'm weak. But then third, recognize that God still has you. You have a future. So the parties are fun. Days are fun. All of those things are fun. But that won't define you as you move on to this next season in life. What will define you is in the moment, this pain and the suffering, how you navigate that and what you learn about yourself.